Welcome to Surf Kayak and Waveski Surfing, a beginner's journey. I'm your host, Richie Guerrero. In this multi-part series, we'll talk about all the things that a beginner might be going through, as I've been going through them myself. We'll be talking about different surf kayaks, wave skis, equipment, and how to ride waves. But more importantly, how you can have the most fun possible in the sport of surf kayak and wave ski surfing. Hello everyone, welcome back to Surf Kayak and Waveski Surfing, a beginner's journey. I'm Richie Guerrero, just outside of New York City here in the USA. In the world of surf kayaking, as far as the World Surf Kayak Association is concerned, you'll have two classes. You'll have a short boat and you'll have a long boat, and there are some other options in between those two that we can talk about as well. But real quick, just to know what you might be getting into, if you look on my screen, these are the guys that taught me how to surf kayak. But this is coming from a beginner's viewpoint for other beginners, as I'm just going through it or I just recently went through it. And I will tell you that having a longer surf kayak is going to have a lot of benefits. If you're working on your Eskimo roll, having the extra length, especially behind your cockpit, it's going to be able to get up and over, right-sided a lot more quickly, as you can lean back on this deck better. You're going to be able to get out from the sand to the surf because it's going to be a faster paddle with that extra length and extra volume, sitting you a little higher up on the water. Whereas the smaller kayaks and even the wave skis, you're going to be sitting below the water line and you're going to be doing a lot more work for the same amount of effort. And when you're out there in the surf, waiting for waves, these little ripples, the little swell will roll in, and everybody that's got an IC around me, longer kayaks, once that swell gets under the tail and it starts to lean the boat forward a little bit, you're going to be moving a lot faster than you are when you're sitting below the water line in these shorter surf craft. So if you're a beginner, it can be pretty beneficial because you can get into the wave earlier, which means you can get out to the shoulder, to the more slopier part of the wave, and get yourself acclimated into surfing. Then you start working your way back into the critical section and the pocket and such. And don't think just because it's a longer boat, you can't be carvy and have fun. Another benefit to an international class is that they have the extra length, right? It's going to be stable. They have a little more extra width. It's going to be stable. you're going to have a lot more room in the cockpit. So if you're a 6'5", if you're a little overweight, if you got a size 11 to 13 shoe, one of those or all of those, you can be a lot more comfortable in here as far as room goes and as far as stability when you're out there in the surf. So it might make it a more pleasurable and comfortable introduction into surfing. Also, the international class, if you were competing, you would not be using fins. They're long enough, you've got a sharp enough rail all the way from the nose to the tail that this is rail-to-rail surfing. You're not going to need fins. And it can be beneficial because, one, fins do add some drag to slow down the speed, slightly. Also, with no fins, you're able to kind of slide into the wave. And if you do have some experience in kayaking, with no fins, you're going to be able to do spinners easy. You can see from Matthew Lamont in that video that, and even some of the other videos I have, where the guys can really spin out the kayak and have a lot of fun. So now if we talk about the other classification, which would be HP, short boat, high performance, we talk about the smaller kayaks. This is a Mega Edge, which I surf. I will say, if this would have been my introduction into surf kayaking, I would have been really frustrated. One, they are a little bit harder to roll, get it right side up. They are going to have less volume, so they're going to be sitting below the water line a bit more. So I can say that starting from the sand out to the surf, you're going to be working a little bit harder. So we're talking about beginners, right? It might be a shock to you. It was to me when I hopped in my first short boat and I realized, wow, this is nothing like the Mega Cyclone that I learned in. They are going to be a little bit tighter too, but you can see you still need volume to keep you afloat. So generally they're going to add it into this area above the knees, a little bit here, and behind the cockpit. So you're actually floating and not sinking. This is not the smallest that Mega makes. I personally couldn't fit in the Matrix. I'm 5'9", size 11 shoe. I'm 190, sometimes a little more, unfortunately, and I just couldn't get in it. I tried the Boost, which is an older model. I was at the high end of the weight limit on that, and I felt like I was just so far in the water. It was really tough for me to paddle. So this was the next size up for me, which gives me just enough room, I feel, where I can be comfortable in there as far as foot room, leg room, and hip room and such. Now I bit off more than I can chew, being I bought a lot of used boats, thinking I'm this surfer, I'm going to do great. Well, once I got into one of these, boy, was I sorely mistaken. It was a big learning curve. But what I did like was that since I don't have that extra length behind the tail, behind my cockpit here, it reminded me a little more of surfing, my stand-up surfing, because I could turn in the wave without having to get the tail behind me, right? Either above and over the wave, the curl or the white water, right? Or turn a little in front of it. Otherwise, think about this. The wave is going to pick you up from behind. You can't walk to the back like a surfer and lift your nose up. And no matter how much you lean back, it's not going to achieve that. So I did feel it right away that when I did a pocket turn, not having that extra length behind my seat made it so much easier to turn within the wave. And as soon as I did a bottom turn, aim towards the beach, and then carve a bottom turn, man, it was really fast. And I had so much fun in it. So if we look at this HP short boat, this isn't the smallest they make. It's just a size up with a little extra volume. I'm pretty comfortable in it. But if you look at the rail, right under here where all your weight is going to be, you can see how it curves out. And that's really, it's probably like the opposite of a whitewater kayak, right? That's the point. You're going to want to lean out, and that's going to do a lot of the turning in combination with the fins. It's kind of tough to see. I'll try to turn the camera, but you can see how that rail is really going to dig into the water and help your turns. And just one quick note before I turn this upside down and we look at the bottom. most people will end up raising or lowering their seats. So as a beginner, as I did, as soon as the boat came and arrived, I don't know if you can see it too well, I've got a standard seat in here, place it right on the bottom, do some paddling around, right? See how comfortable I am. See how hard it is to lean over and get it on its rail. And with most pros, as they're going to be doing, I end up buying these foam sheets from Salamander Paddle because you can get it in quarter inch, eighth inch. I like the half inch. So what I end up doing as a temporary tryout is take the seat out, slip these under the seat. And this one I've got about an inch higher off the bottom here. So being I got a shorter torso, I'm able to lean out a little more and get this boat to turn. Also, personally, I'm not a big fan of these back bands that come with it, which are cool. Some people like these. I actually like something with a little more stability. So the manufacturers will offer these foam backrests in which you can use a rasp and carve. I've actually added a little bit of foam in here as well, just to give me a little more push and keep me forward, because I have a bad habit of like slipping back that way. So I feel a lot more comfortable, and this actually comes out. We can talk a little bit more about outfitting in another video, but I've made it so I can take this out and put my float bags in there, clean sand out and such. And I've got a little Velcro down at the bottom, and I'll just give it a couple pats, and when my weight is on it, it doesn't go anywhere. So you might not be able to see this on the screen, maybe if the light hits it a certain way. But if you look on my screen right now, the design trends, as opposed to 20 years ago, V in the tail and bevels under the rails. And that trend is happening on short boats, long boats, and the mid-lengths to really help you. Since we're doing rail-to-rail surfing, these don't perform too well going straight in the SUP, in the whitewater. They're not made for that. You'll find that the boat wants to turn and you'll get pushed, even these. So this is really going to help you lean it over and get it on its rail. Even if it's slight and you are going straight, you're going to feel like you're always going to be to one side, ever so slightly. So that's where the V is going to come into play. It's also going to help with your turning ability. And the beveled rails are going to help you get it on that rail like we were talking about when it comes to bottom turns, hanging in the pocket since you're surfing either on your left or your right. So, and if you have an older boat and you don't have these angles and it's just a bit more smooth and rounded, hey, listen, they've been doing fine in those boats for years, so there's not a problem in that either. And when it comes to fins, yes, the shorter kayaks, you are going to need fins. There's not enough length to keep these moving, otherwise you're going to be spinning like a top. So, just like the drums that I get, maybe you're a musician, maybe, anything you buy, it comes with, let's say, stock drum heads for me. Well, the stock fins with Surf Kayak companies, they're going to be plastic, composite. They're okay. They're fine. They'll get you through. But the problem I ran into, which is coming from the surfing world, these are standard US fin boxes. Well, in the surfing world and Waveski, they've moved away from these standard fin boxes, except longboards and SUP surfboards, where the center fin will be a fin box, and then the side fins will be futures or FCS style, and these won't fit. But the problem here in the US is that I can't get flat foiled side fins for this type of box. It's not happening. So who do I call? Alessandro. I'm like, every surfboard I've ever owned has flat side fins, which attribute to lift and turn and to create water flow and do all the things that a surfboard is supposed to do. I'm not taking a middle fin and putting it in the sides here. So I called Alessandro. I want 3-inch fins for my short HP, and I want 2.5-inch fins for my Banshee over here. Give me a thruster setup. Good to go. Love them. So this is the Banshee that I'm riding, which is a mid-length, but it's got a very similar shape to an international class. And Can't really tell. You can see my flat area here, but it does round off underneath. Since I got added length to it, it can be a little more forgiving. I've got the V in the tail. It's probably tough to see. I've got beveled rails right behind the fins here, coming all the way back. And I will say that when you have a longer kayak, you can go with smaller fins. In fact, some of the IC guys will just surf with side fins. And this one, I use 2.5 inch. I bought some cheap fins. I put 2.5 inch. I've tried a twin fin on this with larger fins, like a surfboard twin fin. I found myself kind of spinning out a little bit when I was paddling into the waves. So I went back to surfing a thruster, 3 fins, all the same size, and same thing. I've got flat side fin foil. I'm like, Alessandro, give me your toughest glass fins, 2.5 inch, done, great. I've experimented with this, moving them forward, which in theory will make it turn easier, but I found that I was spinning out a little too much. So I moved them back right into this almost the middle here, and I've got it dialed in, and I'm not touching it. I love this for small waves, medium waves, large waves. It's kind of my go-to for everything surf kayak, so I'm really comfortable in this. Another thing that I'll say about this mid-length, whether it be the Banshee, the Vamp, Hobson has the Apex, which is, it's pretty forgiving. Someone says, well, it can do all these great things, but it doesn't do them that well. Well, exactly, which is why you rarely see anybody in a short boat HP class competition using these. As Matthew Lamont says, it doesn't do what he wants it to do. He wants it to do what this can do, and it's not going to do it. It's going to take a lot more effort, but it's a lot more forgiving. Probably tough to see, but it doesn't really sharpen out into the wave like the short HPs, right? You don't have to make up for that here. So rolling it is very easy, and it's actually an inch or two narrower than most of these HP boats. So getting it on its rail to turn is very easy. So hopefully this wasn't too boring. And remember, I'm speaking to you as a beginner still. I started this almost 3 years ago at age 49, almost 50, okay? So I'm still along that journey. I kicked the tires on plenty of used ones and borrowed plenty of them, made notes on what I liked and what I didn't like before I purchased and bought something that I think I would want to learn and grow on and get better at. So the next video is going to be about the Waveski. So if you're coming from a sit-on-top plastic kayak, if you don't know how to roll, or you don't think you're ever going to want to learn how to roll, or you do know how to roll, and you might want to try these and experiment with them, we're going to talk all things Waveski on the next video. So there's probably tons of things that I left out. Please leave your comments. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
subscribe to this YouTube channel and leave your comments down below. You can also follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and I'm also a member of the East Coast Waveski Association.